I appreciate that. Someone give me a wave if the microphone is working okay. Tremendous. So welcome. Thanks for joining me today. The title of the talk, I'm glad that was able to attract you. What I'm going to start out talking with today is a couple of tools and technologies. And I'm going to use these as a crutch to get into our discussion of state and what it means to democratize it. For the non-technical ones in the crowd, though, don't worry. This talk is also for you, and this is only a crutch. We're going to go up into higher levels and understand what it is that we're really building here, what it is that we're trying to put together. So tools and technologies. I'm going to draw two in particular because I think these two in the last 5, charitably 10 years have become dramatically more important and are really affecting the way we build things. The first of these is WebSockets. WebSockets are trendy now, so probably many of you are aware of it, but for those unaware, a WebSocket is a two-way communication channel between a browser and your backend service. WebSockets came about for a couple of reasons. They have a couple of advantages. One of which is that if you have a very chatty protocol between your browser-based application and your service, sockets make that more efficient. Going over HTTP directly, you have to create the connection, make a request, tear it down. That actually costs quite a bit, both in terms of latency and energy and everything else. Pure data efficiency is one reason to go. But there's another much more critical feature of WebSockets that makes them really attractive, particularly today. This is that WebSockets allow push from the server. So if the server discovers something that would be of interest to the user, it can express it immediately, unprompted, to the endpoints. Previously, we could do this in some ways by polling. The browser asks a question every 5 seconds, maybe every second if it's very timely. Any news for me? Any news for me? Any news for me? And the problem with this is quite obvious, actually, is you spend an awful lot of time answering stupid questions. Is there any news for me? No. Still no news. Still no news. Still no news. And it's even worse when you consider that some clients might abuse this, pull you more than what is their fair share, pull you more than you can actually handle. Detecting them costs almost as much as handling the request immediately. So WebSockets give us a great way around this. This push channel is invaluable. That's the first technology. Second one I want to talk about is message passing. Message passing used to be the hallmark of back-end systems, a mechanism of gossip. Services would listen for events that are important, new users added, new channels created, whatever it may be. And this was a way of keeping a group of services in tune with one another, available, and it was particularly intended for these very noisy protocols. Since the original inception of message passing pub/sub, you've seen that devices, end-user devices, have been added to the list of devices that are listening in on these topics. And these devices also increasingly become the primary source of data that services and other devices as well may be interested in. Message passing and pub/sub. So I picked these two because I think these two are really the key technologies that enable something that's happened with the user interfaces that we see in our websites, the user interfaces that we've come to demand out of applications. I'm going to coin these real-time user interfaces. The ride-hailing apps, the food delivery applications, even communication tools. You consider what's necessary to make Slack behave well in the browser. Certainly need a WebSocket there because you want that ability to push only that information that's news. These apps, without a doubt, I hope this isn't controversial, have changed their industries for the better. Certainly the customers are much happier about their ability to hail a taxi now than they used to be. It's instructive to take these as a category and think why that is. Why is it that this real-time user interface, which can even seem gimmicky at times, has made such a difference? I'll give you an example. Back in the bad old days, where to order a pizza, you had to call someone and have a short conversation with them. I lived in Lake Forest, Illinois, on Northwestern Avenue. And what we found was we would order pizzas. They'd say, great, it'll be there in 20 minutes. Just hang on. 22 minutes would roll by. 23 minutes, 26, 27 minutes. Are they late? Where's our pizza right now? So we'd start calling them. They'd start calling us. The driver in particular would call us and ask us, what the hell, man? Your address doesn't exist. And this is because in Lake Forest, Illinois, I don't know what city planner thought this was funny, but there is a Northwestern Avenue also. My ability to communicate this in voice is limited. So this caused a lot of cold pizzas for us. Now, what would have been helpful here? What does the modern experience provide in particular? And I mean those real-time user interfaces that would have helped avoid this problem, right? It comes down to context. Would my driver's location have been useful to me in that situation? Absolutely. I could see that he's gone to this other street of whose existence I was unaware. I'd learned that as well. What about my location? That would have been useful to the driver. The driver would have understood his mistake before I had noticed, before minute 25 of waiting. And what is context, after all, is state. State is at the heart of this experience. What is my state? What is the state of my driver? What is the state of my order in general? Is it even out of the kitchen? And what these apps do, the reason these real-time user interfaces have caught on and changed the industries that they're in. Consider, would Uber be as compelling unless it actually told you the location of your taxi so you could watch it approach? What these apps are doing are democratizing state. Democratization, to make available to people. In this case, particularly people that are deeply interested in a bit of information that you have. Now, I hesitated to draw your attention to those particular examples that I listed before because I'm worried that it's a trap. It's a trap to think that these cases, the ride-hailing apps, the food delivery apps, which are, of course, very well known to us, it's a trap to think that these might somehow be unique. That particularly for ride-hailing or for food delivery, this kind of real-time user interface has a place in the world, but that it ends there. This is the primary illusion of which I want to disavow you, because state is everywhere. Democratizable state is everywhere. How do I know this? Because our businesses, I would claim, are all about state. This is what we've built our businesses around, is how we communicate state, how we express state, manipulating a bank loan, manipulating a money transfer. All of these things are bits of state. And the idea somehow has been ingrained that these should be locked up in our back offices, locked up in our back ends. It's too sensitive to show. I think this category of real-time user interface is starting to break that barrier down, but it needs to happen more. Because consider all of the different industries that haven't really seen a great deal of this state democratization. How much there is to do here, how much state there really is out there in the world, and how interesting some of it might be to customers. But you think why? As a business, you have to think, why would I democratize this? Really, what's in it for me? The first I've kind of touched on is impressing you users. Real-time user interfaces are very catchy. They make excellent conversation pieces. And this alone is worth something, but really it's also about giving better service. Having these real-time experiences, pushing the state to the user before they ask for it, putting the information in their hands so that they feel comfortable with what's happening. This crosses the threshold from a purely functional app into an app that delights, that surprises you users with how well something works. Now there's another reason, probably many more, but there's one other in particular that may surprise you. Democratization of state also gives you a chance to serve those users in that delightful way at a lower cost than before. And here I have an example from my experience. Before I became a Twillian, I worked at a company called TransferWise. If anyone's familiar with TransferWise, what TransferWise does is remittances, sending money across borders, from one currency to another. That's their bread and butter. And what we found at TransferWise is, and this is probably true around the world, you guys will have to tell me, is that once we accepted thousands of dollars from a customer and began the conversion process, the customer got nervous. And when customers get nervous, particularly when the stakes are thousands of dollars, they call you. They call you and ask, I sent the money, did you receive it yet? They call you and ask, it's been a day, you said it would be 36 hours, is that going to make it? What's the state of my order? What's the state of my money? Is everything okay? State. What ended up becoming our mission, one of our prerogatives in the engineering org, was to build a front end, to build an application that democratized state, that told the user enough about the state of their transfer such that they always felt comfortable with what was happening, comfortable with the knowledge that we had their money wasn't lost anywhere, the money was going to make it there, what exchange rate they had achieved, all of these important things. That was deal number one, because without doing this, we had to hire so many customer service agents that we were never going to make a profit doing this. It actually lowered our costs the better we made the experience for the user. And this is all about the democratization of that state that they're looking for, that state that they're interested in. Which means democratization of state is an opportunity for competitive advantage. Because again, what is at the heart of our businesses is state. How we compare one company with another is how well our company represents that state, how well we manage it on behalf of the customer, how accurately we manipulate it based on inputs from the outer world, how well we communicate it. communication. Chosen this word specifically because Twilio also is not immune to this effect. Twilio has built its business around providing manageable, understandable, useful expressions of state as it pertains to communication. When is the phone call ringing? What you can make use, what information you have available to you to make a better experience for customers. And when we do a good job, it provides value to you, our customers. And when we do that successfully, when we start creating value for you, that multiplies at your level, and you can provide better service to your customers. This is what our business model is founded around. State, making it available, communicating it well. Now, for the rest of our talk today, I'm going to switch to talking about a new tool from Twilio that helps you make this jump to that next level, cross the line from functional to delightful. My name is Andres Tak. I'm the product lead for a new product that's publicly available as of this week. And that product is Twilio Sync, a purpose-built API for sharing state among users and devices. And what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to show you some examples and give you some background so that you understand how Sync can really help you on the state to democratization. So as I mentioned, Sync is a purpose-built API for sharing state. That means it has to have a solid SDK, an SDK that understands how to listen for the changes of state and reflect that in the web browser or in the mobile device. It also needs a REST API, which we provide, a tool for your backends where most of your business logic lives to change the nature of information as new information comes to light. We also have webhooks. This is critical because when, as I mentioned before, the devices, the devices in the hands of end users, the browsers, and particularly the mobiles, end up being a very valuable source of information. Webhooks let your server become aware of what's happening to the state of your customers. Turn that around in backend logic, perhaps express something out in the other direction. And we have reachability. Tells you when devices come online or offline. This is the basis of presence models, and it's very important for intense two-way exchanges. We've taken our time releasing this publicly. Now what we have is a product that's efficient, secure, and reliable. We use token-authenticated WebSockets in the same way that all of the other Twilio SDKs do. And we have connection recovery, which means no lost information. Here I have a picture of cars entering and exiting a tunnel, the classic example of what could go wrong. Twilio Sync will help carry you through this. I mentioned that we have multiple SDKs. We do. We have a JavaScript SDK that works on all the major browser platforms. We have iOS support, we have Android support, and feature parity across these things. Devices can listen to any number of sync objects. In this sense, it's very similar to a publish-subscribe system, but I'll talk a little bit about that later. And I mentioned webhooks. I can't underscore this enough. This is a magic sauce, that you're able to connect your backend logic and invoke things in both directions across. That's a high-level review. I have a demo that I'd like to share with you that perhaps explains this better. You're welcome to open this on your mobile phones and try it out with me. Blooming-Gorge 64645. I'll leave this up here for a few seconds before I switch over. What I've written at this demo, at this website, I should say, is a collaborative whiteboard. Collaborative whiteboard. Let me switch to that. Collaborative whiteboard. It's the state here that I'm sharing, right? Is how many lines have been driven, have been drawn. Where are those lines on the screen? All of this sort of thing. I have two ones open. You each have this open on your own screens. This is a toy, right? But what has to happen here? There has to be a two-way method of communication. I have to both be able to submit drawing events myself and receive them from somewhere. Also needs to be some concept of what's the drawing now. This clearing could either delete things or it could save one drawing and move on to a new one. What's the latest drawing that we're assembling together? And you notice, I have no qualms about releasing this to the bunch of you. This is designed to work at some significant scale. So, switching back to this conversation we were having. So how does this work? Here's what I've done. Sync provides three primitives. It provides a document, which is a simple JSON blob. It provides a list, and it provides a map. Map is what I chose in this case. Every line that we drew on that became a map item. This particular map was identified by that slug. And whenever a new item was created, all the other endpoints receive an item added event. Whenever I moved one of the lines from place to place, they received an item updated event. This is the architecture. Now, this app is so simple, I didn't even have to involve the backend. But if I turn on webhooks, immediately I get a fire hose of information about what's happening to this map. I want to point this out, that this map is actually storage. Sync does persistent storage of whatever information you have in it. In that sense, sync is distinguished from message passing, that tool that I mentioned earlier. Although some of the concepts are the same, some of the mechanisms even underneath the hood are the same. But to compare the two, which is a question I get a lot about sync. What is the difference between sync and a message passing thing like Pusher or the Pubnam of the world? Major difference is message passing was built around this concept, much like UDP, that you have a constant stream of messages clearing the internet at high frequency, which means if you lose one in the middle, that's okay. There's another one coming along right away that'll cover it up. If you weren't online to receive a message, you lose it. And that's often okay. There's a large class of situations where this is quite fine. But what if there aren't that many messages? What if you only get one message every few minutes and you happen to miss it because at that moment your phone was switching from 4G to Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi didn't log you in? Whatever. State, in many cases, particularly business logic state, the stuff that we build our businesses around, is often sticky. A loan application moves from one state to another. It becomes approved and then stays approved for quite a long time. And sync is focused particularly on this end of the problem. That also helps us cover our tunnel case. If you lose connection and come back, there is a reference state in the cloud. And what Twilio Sync will do is look at the difference between what you have and what is the new state of the world, and will catch you up. So this is what we've built with Sync. This is the kinds of things that is useful. Thinking of it in a different way, Sync is useful at expressing authoritative statements of state. So my volume is at level 7 now. That's authoritative state, not my volume is one more than before. My volume is one more than before. This is like message passing. If you lose that information, or if you lose the one right before it, you don't converge on a single answer. Authoritative state expresses interest. It expresses a condition of the world. It expresses things that are true long after the message has actually arrived. What are sources of this authoritative state? Places we've already seen Sync used in our, 8 or 9 month long developer preview. We see a lot of use of Sync in call centers. Consider the state that agents have to share with one another. What I'm working on right now. How long is my queue? How long is the queue in general? What's been my productivity? Do I need help? Customer state as well ends up being very useful in call centers, and it leads to co-browsing. Co-browsing meaning that one side of a conversation can see what the other side sees, understand what website they're on, understand where they're scrolling to, perhaps what they're hovering over, what they've entered into a form field. Sync is a tool for these kinds of things. You consider the form field. Message passing isn't sufficient. You need every keystroke, or at least the sum of all the keystrokes. GPS location tracking too. Here you have the food delivery case coming up again. Absolutely implementable in Sync. This is what we built this product for. Dynamic route planning is an extension of that. What are the lists? What are the addresses I need to hit next? We've seen all of these cases so far in our short preview. Real-time dashboards is another one that we've seen. Consider that picture that I showed you with the webhooks, where there's a bunch of information converging on your back end. That back end could then take all that, calculate a bunch of statistics on it, and put it somewhere. Now, if someone's actively watching the dashboard, you'd like to push that new statistic, the new information that's changed, out to that dashboard. Sync has been used for this, with great success, I'm here. The last one is our favorite example. We actually asked a question within the RTD team, which includes Sync here at Twilio. What is the best demo of Twilio Sync that we know of? The best demo that we have is chat. And as it happens, Twilio's own programmable chat is built on Sync. Consider all the things that need to be synced here. Lists of channels. What are the members of a channel? What are the current attributes of a particular user? What's their mood message? All of this is what it was designed for. It gives you a sense for how many objects you can actually subscribe to, how many objects you can have participating in a Sync session. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Anders Tack. I'm the product lead of Twilio Sync. I'm incredibly proud of this product, and it's now in public beta as of Monday. It's very fresh news. I'll be here for questions afterwards. As you leave, please leave your headphones on the seat where you've been sitting. That way we know to clean them. I appreciate you coming by today.